Amanda Nunes is the greatest female fighter of all time. This isn't a statement of opinion, but rather a statement of fact, one that cannot legitimately be challenged, not even in today's world where people ignore realities simply because they don't like them and want to believe something else to be true. This is not fake news. This is fact. Join DAZN and watch more than 100 fight nights a year on the eve of Nunes' return to the octagon this weekend at UFC 239, where she'll defend her bantamweight title against Holly Holm. The 31-year-old Brazilian stands on the cusp of adding another astonishing feat to her already record-setting run of success. The first women to hold UFC titles in two weight classes simultaneously. If Nunes dispatches Holm this weekend, she'll have beaten each of the three women to hold the UFC's bantamweight title before her. She won the belt from Miesha Tate 3 years ago during International Fight Week, when the duo was elevated to the main event after Jon Jones, who coincidentally headlines this year's annual 4th of July weekend festivities, was forced off the card at the 11th hour. 5 months later, and with barely a mention of her name in the build-up to the contest, Nunes sent Ronda Rousey into permanent MMA exile, bringing her highly publicized return to action to a halt a mere 48 seconds after it began. The only former champion who remains is Holm. It's a staggering achievement to consider, and one that only partially highlights just how dominant the American top team representative has been during her ongoing 4-year, 8-fight winning streak. To put it into perspective, there have been 4 women to hold the strawweight title, which was introduced 2 years after the bantamweight ranks broke the gender line in the UFC: Carla Esparza, Joanna Jedrzejczyk, Rose Namajunas, and current champ Jessica Andrade, who won the belt 2 months ago at UFC 237 in Rio de Janeiro. Esparza is 1-1 for her career against her fellow champions, defeating Namajunas to initially claim the title before dropping it to Jedrzejczyk 3 months and 2 days later in Dallas. Jedrzejczyk is 2-2 in bouts against the other title holders, having bested Esparza and Andrade, but dropping a pair of fights against Namajunas, who also holds a 2-2 mark against her fellow 115-pound champions after losing to Esparza, doubling up on Jedrzejczyk and dropping the belt to Andrade. The current champion is 1-1 against the group thus far, having never shared the cage with Esparza. Styles make fights and timing is everything, but in less time than the strawweight division has been in existence in its 4 champions have 6-6 in 12 combined fights amongst themselves, Nunes has the potential to go 3-0 against the women who sat in the bantamweight throne before her. No matter how you try to parse it, the achievement is unparalleled. But it's only part of what makes the Lioness the undisputed queen of the MMA jungle. Adding a second title to her collection last December is another unassailable piece of Nunes' impressive resume, an accomplishment that only 2 men had managed before her and 1 has accomplished since. Conor McGregor's pioneering victory over Eddie Alvarez to become the first champ in UFC history was revered for the historic achievement it was. When Daniel Cormier followed suit last summer by claiming the heavyweight title, it sparked new conversations about his place in the pantheon of all-time greats. After joining the exclusive group just last month by claiming the vacant bantamweight title, Henry Cejudo declared himself to be the greatest combat athlete of all time, and his claim isn't without merit. Of course, none of them accomplished the feat by doing away with a seemingly unstoppable juggernaut the way Nunes did last December at UFC 235. Chris Cyborg entered their co-main event pairing on a 13-year unbeaten streak. After losing her professional debut, the Brazilian wrecking machine had rattled off 21 consecutive bouts without a defeat, the lone blemish her no-contest verdict against Hiroko Yamanaka in what proved to be her final appearance under the Strikeforce banner. She had collected 17 of her 20 victories by way of stoppage, 10 in the first round, including her breakout mauling of Gina Carano and her most recent appearance in the octagon against Yana Kunitskaya. None of her fights were close, save for perhaps her own meeting with Home, which ended with scores of 49-46, 48-47 and 48-47, but didn't feel as tight as those two matching tallies would indicate. Cyborg was an overwhelming favorite and Nunes walked into the octagon and put it on her. While Cyborg landed first, Nunes quickly responded, chopping at her lead leg with a powerful kick and following it with a clean right hand. When Cyborg pressed forward behind wide hooks, Nunes countered with straight, powerful shots up the middle, staggering her. Less than 30 seconds later, Nunes connected on a walk-off right hand that sent Cyborg crashing to the canvas and the crowd inside the Forum in Inglewood, California into hysterics. Just in case all that isn't quite enough evidence to support her case as the greatest female fighter of all time, it's also worth noting that Nunes also holds victories over the first UFC Women's Featherweight Champion, Germaine de Randamie, the current Bellator Women's Featherweight Champion, Julia Budd, and a pair of wins over the reigning UFC Flyweight Champion, Valentina Shevchenko, as well. For her career, Nunes is 17-4 and enters UFC 239 with a 10-1 record in the octagon and a perfect 5-0 mark in championship fights. Her standing as the greatest female fighter of all time is not up for debate. The greater question is why doesn't she get more consideration as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the sport today? If the conceit of the concept is who would win with all things being equal and we use resumes and skills as a means of creating a hierarchy, shouldn't Nunes' incredible 3-year run and undeniable combination of power, speed and technique land her somewhere just below Cormier and Jones, in a group with fighters like Cejudo, Khabib Nurmagomedov and Max Holloway in a battle for third place on the podium? Even if she falls to the bottom of that grouping and lands in 6th place amongst that collection of talent, doesn't that tell you all you need to know about her standing as the best female fighter of all time? Nunes' place at the top already feels unimpeachable and a win on Saturday will only further strengthen her position. Let's block ad.